Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my book surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mine of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press, ah, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked up starting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
My name's Ryan McKinley, as most of you probably know. Have you ever put your ear close to your soul and listened hard? I hate this wretched willow soul of mine, patiently enduring, plaited or twisted by other hands.
Ryan, breakfast!
But I just can't find the time to do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you looking at, dipshit?
I know. By the way, I'm working late tonight, honey. I won't be home when you get back from school. Have a good day, sweetie.
Hey. Ever get the feeling that everything we do in this life is for nothing? So there's not much hope for us then.
I've talked to God, and the sky is empty.
It's beautiful.
Beauty is the end, Ryan. And the end is beautiful.
Dying is an art, like everything else. I do it exceptionally well. I do it so it feels like hell. I do it so it feels real. I guess you can say I have a gift. Like those before me, I am a perfectionist, a master of my life and the path I have chosen. With that said, I have no faith in human perfectibility. I think that human exertion will have no appreciable effect upon humanity. Man is now only more active, not more happy, not more wise than he was 6,000 years ago. Before I step forth on my journey, I would like to take a moment to address those I love the most. Please forgive me for the worst possible thing I could do, especially my mom. I know deep inside, if there is a God, he will let me in. Now back to me. To address such a serious matter, I must do it properly and precisely. There is no room for mistakes. Therefore, it is only logical to follow in the masters of death's footsteps. Virginia Woolf killed herself in the early 40s by filling her pockets with stones and walking into the river Ouse. Possibility for the execution of my death? I think so. I realized, with my fear mixed with my ability to float, let alone swim, it is extremely difficult to drown myself. In contrast to John Berryman's death in 1972 by jumping off the Washington Avenue Bridge, this will suffice, I guess. If you are considering this method, I would recommend you are either old enough to drive or have a suitable bridge in your hometown. Otherwise, it might pose difficulties. Anne Sexton killed herself in 1974 due to carbon monoxide poisoning. If it's good enough for her, it's good enough for me. Note to other suicide enthusiasts. This particular way to kick the bucket takes an exceptionally long period of time. If you're willing to wait, by God, do it. But for me, I would preferably go quick. Sylvia Plath, Death by Kitchen Utilities. perfect. On second thought, I don't think this is right for me. Now, how can I even begin to speak about suicide, let alone authors, and not discuss the option of alcoholism, chosen by Edgar Allan Poe in his death in 1849? I never had much taste for alcohol, but it seems as if I'm forgetting the most common approach to killing oneself: overdosing, much like Karen Boy in 1941. Note to those wanting to end themselves early: if you plan on overdosing, make sure you have something strong. Otherwise, prepare to just feel like shit. I want something a little more extreme, much like the 1991 suicide done by Danny Casolaro. There must be quite a few things that a hot bath won't cure, but I don't know any of them. It is said that the scene was so gruesome that one of the housekeepers fainted when she saw it. I can only note that the past is beautiful because one never realizes an emotion at the time. It expands later, and thus we don't have complete emotions about the present, only about the past. I could never do that to her, my own mother. Maybe I will take more of a contemporary route like Ernest Hemingway. I find it odd that not only Ernest himself, but his father, Clarence, his two siblings, Ursula and Leicester, and his granddaughter, Margot, all had run-ins with suicide. It must be genetic, to see trouble and sorrow in the pits of the world. I have become insane, with long intervals of horrible sanity in my past. I am now above the weakness of seeking to establish a sequence of cause and effect between the disaster and the atrocity.
Ryan, dinner.
It's funny how things turn out. Always going back to the beginning. Sometimes it's better to go the more traditional way. So, before I go, I would just like to say, the joy that isn't shared dies young. If you were just to kiss me, you would understand how important I am. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. Lord, help me. Bring back the head of the octopus, for I fear it is my time.
And the raven never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.
I am young, too young. I've come to the realization that as a writer, I can never seem to finish what I start. This is simply just a work in progress. But one day, I will join the rest of my fellow authors in the heavens, perhaps Lucifer's underground, furthering the perpetual motion of righteous depression. It will be grand.